thank you so much. As Ed mentioned, my name is Stacy Henry. I am the Director of Learning for our North American Operations Group at Iron Mountain. And I'm excited to share with you a story about culture change as it relates to our frontline employees. Oh, that's me again, in case you missed it the first 3 times. Before I start talking about what it is that we do, I'm going to share a few faces that mean a lot to me and mean a lot to our company. And this is Derek. We have Ruthie, Bob, Anna, Mark, Gabe, and finally Chris. These 7 faces are a representation of the more than 7,000 frontline non-exempt employees that we have working at Iron Mountain. These 7,000 plus employees are really the heart of our company. They're the ones going out and seeing our customer base on a daily basis. They're the ones for whom we developed the Sentinel program. So back in 2010, I was tasked with designing and developing a learning program for frontline employees. Piece of cake, right? Easy. That's what I did. I got to develop training every day, so this was a pretty easy task. I even had a team, albeit small, 3 other people, and we got to put together what I thought was going to be a simple learning solution to prepare our frontline employees. What we ended up with, though, was something much, much bigger than that. We ended up with a program that inspired an employee experience to change. We ended up with a program that drastically reduced our turnover rates. We ended up with a program that enabled employees to work safer, to be able to go home to their families and to their friends without injury. And ultimately, we made Iron Mountain a better place to work for our frontline employees. So how did Sentinel come to be? I mentioned, in 2010, we were asked to build a program. Well, with any learning solution or any business solution, there's generally a challenge at hand. And depending on the vantage point, our challenge was a pretty good one to have. We were growing like crazy. In the mid-90s, we started to look around at our company, and we started to look around at our competitors, and we thought, let's just buy them. So we started really changing the way that we look at and the way that we operate in terms of purchases. In 1996, we were a $100 million company. A decade later, 10 very short years, with 250 acquisitions under our belt, across North America, largely within the contiguous United States, we were a $2.4 billion company. So we went from $100 million to $2.4 billion. That's a huge change. And so what happened was, as we started acquiring all of these businesses, we started to acquire their corporate cultures as well. So the bedrock upon which we were built, which was our company policies, our culture, our procedures, our practices, that was changing as well. So all of these corporate cultures mixed together was really a huge risk to our customer base. So that's where Sentinel came from. So we had to put together a training program. We had to address the challenges. And one of the things that we had to do was provide standardized learning for our new hires coming into the organization, but more importantly, for those employees that were with us, those 7,000 plus employees that were out seeing our customers daily. So we had to put together a formalized, standardized learning approach that would provide the foundational knowledge to prepare our employees to work independently, work safely, to become job qualified to work independently. And we knew that a successful program would really mean that we had to address all of the business challenges, all of the different business lines, while forging us into one company. So my giant team of 3 other people and I, we put our heads together and we started to address, how do we do this? This is a lot bigger than what we really thought it was going to be. It's much more than a little training program. So we identified 3 distinct work paths: a learning content work path, a distribution model path, and then a brick and mortar learning facility. So within 6 very short months, my team, coupled with partners from the business, operations, HR, a variety of groups, put together the learning content. 23 e-learning modules, 30 on-the-job training modules, and 2 immersive simulations. That was simple. That was the really easy part, getting the learning underway. What we had to address, though, was the distribution model. How do we provide the highest quality learning with the most number of events without adding T&E dollars? And that's where the challenge happens. So what is it that we do to get this out there to our North American population? The first thing we looked at was having corporate trainers from other groups roll out the training. Maybe the 5 or 4 of us could go and do it. Well, as soon as we started putting dollars around this, we knew it was absolutely not an option. So we had to come up with Plan B. And Plan B was our second work path, the distribution model. We put together a process team, and it really was a business team. This process team consisted of my team, so folks from learning, folks from field operations, our supervisors, our managers, executive sponsors, folks from compensation, benefits, and HR. And over the course of a few months, we held bi-weekly 90-minute meetings. And in these meetings, sometimes there were knockout, drag-down fights because we had a lot of processes to figure out. How do we distribute this effectively? Who's the right person to actually take those learning events and get them to the existing and to the new hire population? And what we ended up with was a process called the certified coach. So when the dust settled and all the fights were done, the certified coach process, that person, along with the learning events, is what actually became the Sentinel program. And the coach is really what differentiates this learning program from others. So the coach is the delivery model, but who is the coach? So the process team had to identify who it is. Some folks thought that it should be the supervisor, the frontline supervisor. There was a lot of discussion around this. Some folks on our process team felt that it should be a peer, somebody who's already doing the job. They're the expert. Let's invest in them. So after a lot of discussion, it was decided that the certified coach would be a peer, a mentor, somebody who has the foundational knowledge. It's not another check in a box for a supervisor whose list of tasks is already entirely too long. So this process team, while we had the person identified as a peer, had a lot of work to do. So we had to identify, well, how do we select this person? Do they get paid? How do we train them? How do we prepare them? So some of the decisions that were made in those few months during these bi-weekly meetings was, do we open this up to the groups that we're training for? And in our first case, it was transportation, our largest business line. Or do we let our supervisors pick their favorite person? Sandy, he's the go-to guy. Let's have him do this. He's always been my person. That was the gut reaction for almost everybody on the team, but I fought it, and I really fought it hard because I felt that this needed to be opened up for a few reasons. Number one, if we opened it up to the peer population and let eligible candidates apply, it was going to be better adoption in the field and quicker adoption. We didn't have time to waste. So a few more fights later, it was decided that we would open the coach position up to all eligible candidates within a population. So what does that mean? It means we had to create things like role descriptions, eligibility requirements, FAQs, applications. It also meant we had to decide, do we pay them? They're an hourly employee. Their job is still a driver in this case, or a record center worker. Do we compensate them for the added responsibility? And the answer was yes. We absolutely do compensate them. We compensate them twice a year based on performance and based on the performance of not only how they're coaching, but also how the new hire is being coached and how the new hire is performing post-training. The last piece that we had to decide before we actually opened it up was, how do we ready these folks? Do we just kind of hope that they know everything and hope that all those learning modules, that they just transfer that knowledge? Well, the answer was no. We made a decision to make a significant investment in these frontline employees and actually bring them to a 3.5-day class where they're certified. They attend a Train the Coach certification class. So these are hourly workers who largely have never traveled for the company. Almost none of them have, and we're actually going to pick them up, take them out of their job for a week, 5 days, plunk them in a Train the Coach class, and invest in them, teach them things like how to coach, how to teach, how to transfer knowledge. Oh yeah, what is this Sentinel program all about? They get an opportunity to learn how to administer the Sentinel program to new hires coming in the doors of Iron Mountain, as well as their existing employees, their peers back in their market. So those decisions are made. The process group is done. The next thing we have to do is actually open this up to the application and the interviewing process. So the process team put together, as I mentioned, all of those documents, the FAQ, the marketing material, the application, and we packaged those up and shipped them out to almost 900 locations across North America. And then market by market, we started interviewing. Our hope was to fill 180 certified transportation coach roles. We would do that through a panel interview, and the panel consisted of somebody from my team, an HR representative from their local market, and then someone from their local management team, always their immediate supervisor, and sometimes their general manager. Interviews were 30 minutes, max. And we knew that one of two things would happen. It would either be crickets, absolutely nobody would step up, and we would have a failure, or the floodgates would open, and it would be pure chaos, which would be a joy. That's exactly what we wanted. Well, we got what we wanted. We actually held over 500 interviews of frontline hourly employees. These are guys that are getting on vehicles and delivering our data or our material to our customers. So imagine me in my pajamas at 4 a.m. before they're starting their route asking these questions. And if we think about it, just let's put some context around it. 500 30-minute interviews asking the same 6 questions, that's 250 hours of asking 6 things. Our family, our friends, our cube mates, our coworkers, everybody knew what was coming next. I could actually rattle off those 6 questions right now in an interview if you like. I won't. It was a sad, sad period of time. So we ended up with 200 certified transportation coaches. We start for 180, we ended with 200. Now, while all of this was happening, a third process group was working in the background to put together, design, develop, and convert unused warehouse space in Atlanta. 9,200 square feet of unused warehouse space that would become our Train the Coach certification site. It was an immersive learning facility that we built. So we're investing in learning, we're investing in coaches, and now we're investing in the facility. The facility is a replica of an Iron Mountain facility, so we have our own docks, we have our own vehicles. It's a live working site, so that when coaches come there, they get to practice in the environment that they're most used to. It's even wired for video conferencing. And that's because a senior leader addresses every single coach class as it begins. So as a new employee, or excuse me, as a new coach enters that class, he or she sits down, terrified. They're getting an address from a senior leader saying, you're important, this role is important, and what you're about to embark on is really going to change the culture of Iron Mountain. So some of the results, and I see that my time is really going quickly here, so I'm going to have to go through them faster. You know, I said we started out to change a culture, and we did that, but we also drastically reduced our turnover. Turnover in transportation was 40% when we started, and today it's hovering around 12 to 15%. So in 3 very short years, that's where we landed. Safety was a big win for us. We've saved $10.5 million in workman's comp actual payout dollars. So if you compare that to $100 million, it's not a big number, but it actually equates to 70% in true cost reduction, just by teaching people how to work smarter and safer. Our scanning discrepancies in our chain of custody, which meant somewhere from customer to driver to record center worker, we had 15,000 to 20,000 scanning discrepancies on any given week, and 75 to 80% of those scanning discrepancies were process error. So after Sentinel, we're at about 3,000 scanning errors per week, and given our sheer volume of scans, that's fantastic. There's one last, and to me, the most important business result that I'd like to share, and that is out of our 200 certified coaches that we started with, and today we have well over 400, but we started with 200. Out of those 200, 31 of those frontline hourly employees have been promoted to a coordinator, a supervisor, or a manager. So by investing in our own employees to train the ones that we have and the new ones walking through the door, we're creating our own talent pool. And the return on investment has been absolutely worth it. Our employee experience is through the roof. Now I'm going to end well over time, I apologize, just one more slide, with Chris. And I mentioned in the beginning, Chris was one of the faces of Iron Mountain. Well, Chris was what we call a cog in the wheel employee. He was actually on his way out the door when this opportunity arose. He was a great employee working in a not-so-great environment. He expressed his desire to want to help other people, and he didn't have the tools or the resources to do it. So he was out of here. Then this opportunity came along, and Chris has been since promoted twice in the last 3 years. He was actually just selected to participate in one of our most coveted management development programs, in which he gets to learn directly from our senior-most leaders. He gets to take classes from Harvard Business School, and he's a star employee because of it. And this is what Chris has to say. Being a part of Sentinel, being a part of the Sentinel program and becoming a coach has been amazing. Knowing that the company has invested in me to help others learn is empowering. I don't think I'd be anywhere near where I am today if I hadn't gone through the Certified Coaches program. So it's testimony that this little training program that we thought we were building is so much more than that. And I thank you. That's all I have.